What's going on, guys? It's Stewie, your friendly neighborhood gamer, and welcome back to another top 5 video. Today we're going to be going over my top 5 favorite Zelda games of all time, and this video is actually going to be a prelude to a new series that I am starting up, so stay tuned to the end of the video to hear more information about that. But yeah, so I'm going to be going over my top 5 favorite Zelda games, so let's get started. And yeah, so coming in at number 5, we have The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword. So coming in at number 5, we have Skyward Sword. This is one of those games that I remember being super hyped for, and it was actually one of the first games I ever pre-ordered myself and picked up on day one. Because, you know, growing up, I would always get games at Christmas and stuff, but at the time when this game released, I had a job and was able to pay for it for myself, and I actually got the limited edition that came with like a special controller and among other things. But yeah, it was really cool, and I remember being really hyped for this game and just like doing as much research as I can. We knew that it was going to be the earliest Zelda game in terms of the timeline, so that was really cool. Skyward Sword had a lot of cool things about it, and it was really cool to see how a lot of things unfolded. It was really cool to see how the Master Sword was forged. It was really cool also to see Demise, you know, the first major villain in the series as far as the timeline goes. And to see how, you know, things play out towards the end of the story. You know, despite a lot of issues with like the controllers, the motion controls, and stuff like that, I feel like this game is really underrated, and a lot of people give it a lot of hate. It was definitely more of the lighthearted, towards the lighthearted side of the Zelda series. It definitely wasn't that dark. You know, there were a few dark themes and a few dark times, but overall it was really lighthearted and really. Kind of like Wind Waker is definitely, I feel like the art style has a lot to do with it, and you know, Skyward Sword definitely, I feel like it pushed the Wii to its limits in terms of like the art style, in terms of the graphics and stuff. It looked beautiful, and I can just imagine what it would look like in HD. But yeah, so Skyward Sword's coming in at number 5. Coming in at number 4, we have The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask. Now, Majora's Mask is one of those games that I remember seeing as a kid, and I never actually got to play it until I was a lot older, actually, probably like 12 or 13 years old, because I never was able to get the game myself. But Majora's Mask is one of those games that has such a dark story and so many dark themes around it. It just makes it so awesome. I feel like the story, Majora's Mask story, is like the best thing about the game. Not to mention, you know, we get these really cool masks that allows us to transform into different races and stuff. That was really cool. That was a cool mechanic. And I just feel like Majora's Mask is like, despite being a direct sequel to Ocarina of Time, it's its own game in its own right. You know, it didn't feel like you were playing Ocarina of Time over again, but you know, that wouldn't have been a bad thing. But you know, it definitely was it felt like a new game, and it felt like a new experience. You know, going to a whole different like you know, region, I guess you can say, and seeing the difference between, you know, Termina and Hyrule. I thought that was really cool, and I just remember being, you know, spending a lot of time just looking for different you know, different things that you could do on the different days and different times and stuff, and always going back to day one and doing it over and over again. And I remember that being kind of tedious but really fun in the same respect, because you get to explore and just find different things and, you know, find different secrets, and that's really cool. That, like, I feel like Majora's Mask is one of those games that has so much to do that you just keep doing it. You kind of like steer away from the story, the main story. So definitely, if you're into side quests, Majora's Mask is the game for you if you haven't played it already. But yeah, so Majora's Mask is at number 4. Coming in at number 3, we have The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. So coming in at number 3, we have A Link to the Past. I believe, as far as I can remember, A Link to the Past is the first Zelda game that I ever owned. I didn't actually get to play it on the Super Nintendo, but I did get the Game Boy Advance version when that came out. And I remember getting that game and beating it, beating it, restarting over and over and over again, because it was so fun. You know, just the music, the different levels and stuff, and how you can go between different worlds, and, you know, the map would change, and exploring the map was really cool. Despite being, you know, a 16-bit game, it felt like the world was huge, and that you weren't in such a little, you know, small space. It really felt that you were in Hyrule, and it was really revolutionary for the time. I believe it was like 1992 this game came out. Definitely one of the best Zelda games out there if you guys are looking to get into some of the older Zelda games. Not to mention that this Link that is in, you know, this timeline, this game is actually probably, in my opinion, the hardest working Link, because he does appear in a few other games as well. But yeah, A Link to the Past was definitely an awesome game. I definitely recommend it. You know, it's got a lot of replay value and a lot of things to do, and it's just it's a classic. It's a classic game, and it's definitely worth your time and money if you can get it. So yeah, coming at number 3, we had A Link to the Past. Coming in at number 2, we have, so my top 2 games are really close in terms of, you know, where they come in my favorite games. The second game is definitely awesome in its own respect, and you know, the first game is awesome as well. But yeah, so coming in at number 2, we have The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess. Now, I credit Twilight Princess with getting me back into video games. In between the GameCube and the Wii, sometime there, I just stopped playing video games completely. I went from playing like almost as much as I can, you know, all day, every day, on the weekends anyways, to not playing at all, you know, just being, doing other crap. And I remember going to Blockbuster back when Blockbuster was still a thing. I remember going to Blockbuster and renting it and then playing it and beating it in the summer. You know, every time it was raining, every time it was dark out, I would play this game. And I would credit Twilight Princess for getting me back into video games and back into gaming. Because it was such an awesome game, and I just remember playing it over and over again every summer after that. You know, I would go and rent it, and eventually I got my own copy when Nintendo released it, or re-released it for the classics, or the player select, or whatever it was. I remember buying my copy and playing it again. And actually recently, last year, I did a daily Let's Play of Twilight Princess where I uploaded a new episode every day. So I'm going to plug that really quickly. If you guys are interested in that, I can leave a link in the description below. You guys can go check that series out. That definitely was the funnest I've ever had making videos, and I've been chasing that high ever since. But yeah, Twilight Princess has everything. It has story, it has atmosphere, it has gameplay. Just, it was again, like Majora's Mask, it was a really dark story. And I feel like Twilight Princess has such a pivotal role on the timeline, you know, because we get a lot of information from previous games and different events in the timeline, and it really helps us paint a picture between, you know, Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, and in between, you know, Twilight Princess. And it did a really good job at it. You know, the information wasn't direct and in your face, but it was there, and if you looked hard enough, you can find it, which was really cool. And there's so many secrets scattered around, you know, Hyrule and Twilight Princess. It just makes it such an awesome game to just explore and look around. And definitely my favorite Zelda game just to play over and over again. I never get tired of it. I never really get tired of any Zelda game. I just love the series. But Twilight Princess is definitely up there when it comes to playing it over and over again. So anyways, coming in at number 2, we had Twilight Princess. And coming in at number 1, we have, so if you guys have been around the channel, you guys probably already know what number 1 is, but coming in at number 1, we have The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. Now, Ocarina of Time is the game that I credit with getting me into video games. I remember going over to my cousin's house, Bellicix Vibe, and seeing Ocarina of Time for the first time, seeing video games for the first time. I remember being so interested, and it really drew me in. And I didn't get my first console for a few years after that, but every time I would go over, I'd want to play video games, and I remember just being so happy doing it. And when I eventually got Ocarina of Time, I remember just being, again, so happy to see that game and to be playing it. And it definitely lived up to my expectations of, you know, the nostalgia factor. And it definitely lived up to my expectations in terms of story and, you know, gameplay and everything. Ocarina of Time is probably the game that I would recommend to everybody if they wanted to get into the Zelda series. If you're new to the Zelda series and you want to play the best game in the series, play Ocarina of Time. You can never go wrong. There's so many different ways you can play it. It was re-released on the 3DS. It was re-released on the GameCube, the eShop, or the Nintendo eShop. And yeah, there's so many different avenues for you to play it. So if you haven't, for some strange reason, played Ocarina of Time or any of the games on this list, definitely go check them out because I highly recommend them. But yeah, Ocarina of Time is just one of those games that it has such a nostalgia factor, and it's such a great game, and a lot of people credit it as the best game ever made of all time. And I would tend to agree. Like, I haven't played a game that has lived or come close to being as good as Ocarina of Time. Just especially at the time, you know, this game came out, it was definitely revolutionary, and it definitely changed the game, and a lot of games tried to emulate what Ocarina of Time did and still haven't been able to do that. I just love the game, and it has such an important role on the Zelda timeline. So if you're into lore, like I am, and you're into, you know, different backstories and seeing how things turn out in different scenarios and stuff, Ocarina of Time is your game for you. Spoiler alert if you don't know, basically Ocarina of Time causes a timeline split in the timeline, the Zelda timeline, to 3 timelines. So you know, we get the child timeline, we get the adult timeline, and we get the fallen timeline. I'm not going to go into details as to what happens in those timelines or how those timelines are caused. But yeah, it definitely has such an important role in the series, and it makes you think, you know, oh, what happens if, you know, this happened, or if I didn't do that, or if I did. It really makes you think, and it really is such an awesome game to play and see it unfold. So yeah, that was my top 5 favorite Zelda games. Now I'm going to give you guys some information on the new series that I'm starting up that is kind of piggybacking off this video. So like I said, this series is kind of, or this video rather, is a stepping stone for a new series called The History of Hyrule. So what I'm going to do is go into depth on each game, starting at Skyward Sword and working my way down to number 1, Ocarina of Time. And I'm going to give you guys some information about those games, you know, the console it was released for, how many units were sold, and then go into detail about different information that is actually provided by Hyrule Historia, which is a book, basically the Zelda Bible, I like to call it. Has so much information in there. Gives you facts about the development, different concept arts and stuff, and it's a really cool source of information if you're looking to get more from the games, not just by playing them, but by reading the book. And you kind of, it enhances the experience, enhances, you know, if you're into lore and you're into, you know, the history of things, Hyrule Historia is definitely a must read. And I'm gonna use that as a source and give you guys some cool information and go into each game. Yeah, so a new episode of this series will be coming out every Wednesday, and then once I get the 5 videos completed, I'll start taking suggestions from you guys and then do some games that you guys want to see. And yeah, it should be a pretty cool series. I'm really excited for it. I hope you guys are too. If you have any questions, comments, leave them down below, and let me know what your guys' top 5 favorite Zelda games are. I'd love to hear them. And yeah, so check out the description for any important links you guys may need, and subscribe if you haven't already for more Zelda games. And as always, I will see you guys tomorrow. Peace!